Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Awesome. Finally.
Right. How are you, Manaz?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So first and foremost, the most important thing, how was your dentist appointment?
Oh my God. It's better now. I have baby teeth still.
Oh, wow.
I've
Really?
never fallen. Yeah. I guess it's common. I didn't know. So they have one fell off not so long ago at a very old age. And then the other one is still here. So they just put a screw on there. It's just crazy.
Wow.
Like he was like screwing stuff in my mouth. So I guess I'm not going to make it to the, he told me. So the assistant was like, yeah, it's fine. You have a podcast, totally fine. The dentist came like, you won't be able to talk. And
you're not going to do it.
yeah, being high was one thing. Actually, I didn't take the meds. So I just passed on the meds. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I wasn't high. I was just in pain.
Yeah. Oh, man. I hope you're feeling better today.
Oh, much better. Back to normal.
Okay, good. I hope you got a dollar under your pillow for your baby teeth. Do you know what the tooth fairy? Okay.
Yeah. We call it the mouse in France.
You call it the mouse?
Yeah, it's not a fairy. It's a little mouse that comes to you as a kid.
Oh, that's cool. That's cute.
Yeah.
It's like Ratatouille, but with money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I want to make sure that I'm getting your last name right. We're here with Manaz Raiszadeh. Raiszadeh. Yeah. See, I heard somebody else say it. I think they might have mispronounced it. That's what I'm going to go with. So it's Raiszadeh.
Yes. It's like the sun rises once a day. So Raiszadeh.
See, I should have called you ahead of time, but I like it. So we're here with Manaz Raiszadeh, and she's a wonderful artist, a San Diego-based artist. And I guess I know you from Shockbox and a little bit I guess you did Quarantining with the Chris's, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh my God, that feels like a lifetime away, but yes.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, it was during the pandemic. But yeah, I was talking with them and they're like, oh yeah, we just interviewed Manaz. And I said, oh yeah, I know Manaz. I mean, I don't think you and I've ever met in person, have we?
No, but the whole Shockbox crew, I am connected to you guys via Instagram and with Mike and everything. So I feel like, even though we haven't met in person, I feel like I kind of know all of you guys.
Right. You're part of the family.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's start with, I know you've got a background in France and Afghanistan and San Diego. I know that's all kind of wrapped up into your story a little bit. We always start with the origin story, and you can start as early as you want. You can talk about anything you want, what shaped you as a human being, as an artist, and just go for it.
Yeah, cool. So my background is I was born and raised in France in a very small town called Alençon in Normandy. But both of my parents are from Afghanistan. So I think for the very first years of my life, I thought everybody was kind of Afghan at home and then French at school. Because I had different food, different language at home, obviously, different music. Everything was different at home. And school was just by language, was different, but also culturally. But for me, I never really questioned it as a kid. We were very well adapted, even though we're the only Afghan family at the time in our town.
Oh, wow.
And fast forward to, I think, high school when 9/11 happened. This is when, because before that, people didn't know where was Afghanistan. We don't look physically. It's hard. Like we could look Hispanic, Arab. And we have a lot of North Africans in France. So no one really knew where we were from. But it didn't matter. I never really questioned it. I thought it was I thought it was cool. Like we had a different language and different food, and my friends liked asking about it. So I always embraced it. And I still do, obviously. But when 9/11 happened, this is when people are like, oh, that's your country. And
Right.
I was getting like weird comments about, it was funny to people, but I even couldn't understand myself because I was so young, like what's going on the side of the world I'm supposed to be from, even though no Afghans were related to this 9/11 event.
But all of us in our ignorant mind were just like, yes, you look like you could be from there. So we're going to hate upon you. I hate
Yeah, and
it.
it's the media. Like it was Bin Laden was in Afghanistan, so by default we were associated.
So you
But
were
yeah,
in France at that time, then you weren't in America.
no, I was, yeah, I was in high school in
Okay.
France. Yeah, I remember vividly that day. But yeah, so then I started questioning things more, and then not by questioning I meant by I wanted to understand more where I was from. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom, I'm very close to my mom, and she was great at telling me stories of Kabul and her upbringing. So the Afghanistan that I know is from my parents, and it's all through stories of my mom. And I have pictures in my head of colors of where they lived and their whatever they've done. I've pictured everything in my head, even the smells, because she talks about fruits and food.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so all that I think comes in my art because I have my own little world of my own identity. And coming to America changed everything again because here, because I was now my accent is a little better, I think. But when I first moved here, I had to take French accent. So I was a French girl. I was not the Afghan girl anymore. I was the French girl. So it was a whole identity shift, which if you don't dig in it, it doesn't really matter. Like, oh yeah, French Afghan, this is who I am. But I think myself, I wanted to understand for myself who I was and what it meant to have both identities.
Yes.
And I'm still working on it. And it's something that I enjoy it. I don't feel like, oh, like because I'm from so many places, I don't belong here. The sense of belonging is not, I don't struggle with that, but I do want to understand and I want to make sure that I'm able to communicate. Now I have kids. So it's all like,
Of
it's not
course.
about telling people, it's also about telling my kids. And my art is the perfect place when I can fully be myself and shamelessly be myself, whatever it means to be me, not just by country or culture, but also by like my true self as a person.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So do you speak three languages then?
I do. I speak Farsi fluently from the Farsi from Afghanistan. I speak
Mm-hmm.
French is my most comfortable language just because I went to school there. And English now too. I mean, I'm married to an American, is Iranian American, but I live here, so I speak now English. I'm very very comfortable, and
Yeah.
my Spanish is pretty good. I would say like I'm pretty yeah. I'm like I have three and a half languages, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. My
Yeah.
wife is from Argentina.
Oh,
So we,
nice.
we have that connection. It's interesting being a transplant. I mean, I know most people from America, actually all people from America, aside from the Native Americans, are originally transplants. So we are a country of immigrants. We all belong here, you know?
I love that. Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
about California.
me too. Oh, California, especially. It's
Hmm.
such a melting pot. But do you draw from a lot of these different cultural backgrounds in your work? Is that something that you're doing? I know you do a lot of like words and imagery and symbols in your work. Is that all drawing from those different backgrounds?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very, when I paint, I'm an abstract painter and I never think about it, but when I sit and I look at my art, I know it comes from there. And I
Yeah.
love the play on the Franglish. You would see sometimes like Kabul appearing in my art, it comes from like this. If I'm doing a journaling post in the morning or a meditation and I'm thinking about being grounded, then in my
Hmm.
art, like sometimes the cities where I've lived come across, or the cities I'm not from, I've never been to Kabul, but it's still in me, so it comes in my art.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because even though it comes from within and it's me, I always connect with someone will ping me and say like, oh, I'm also from there, or they have some type of connection with the places that I'm from, or through any words I put in my art, it connects with my audience too.
That's so cool. So you've never been back to Kabul?
No, unfortunately, my parents moved to France way before I was born. So
Yeah.
I was born in France, and I dream of going one day, but right now it's not the safest place for anybody.
Right. Right. It's a little more complicated than that. Yeah. Hopefully someday you'll be able to go and visit. Do you want to describe your artwork for everybody listening? I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but just from the artist's perspective, how would you describe your work to somebody who's never seen it?
I think right now the phase I am in, it's very raw, it's very bold. It has a lot of strong wording on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of layers, but there's a contrast between you'll feel some peace, but also some chaos in my art. And I love the both contrasts being in harmony on a piece, like when you can really feel the movement of any human being. We all go through different phases, and putting it in one art piece. I think that I know that's what I'm doing, but I think that's also what people feel when they see my art, and that's why it's shocking also, because I'm also very feminine, but I embrace my masculine side because I think that's important to have a balance of both. So that comes across my art too.
I completely agree. I love that push pull. I mean, I have a similar thing in my work where it's like I always say it's a combination of darkness and light, because through my life, I went through some dark stages, and I kind of discovered through my work how to become like a happier and brighter person. And that's when my art started to change. So, but it's still there, it's all in your subconscious. I love being able to express all that. And I see that in your work too. It's really cool. So I get the impression, like, I don't know you very well at all, but I get the impression that you are a spiritual person.
I am, yes. And
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's something that came naturally into my life. I think I was spiritual growing up without knowing I was spiritual.
Yeah.
And almost having.
Same.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, because at that time it was not common to speak about it. And it was not now it's also a buzz thing. Like, we see it everywhere.
Definitely.
Not a buzz in a bad way, but I'm glad that it's more, we talk about spirituality, and there's so many different channels to express it or to feel it. But growing up, I was almost ashamed of being that way. I felt like
really?
it was weird. It's like, because I would write a lot, and it's like, I guess it was journaling, but I didn't know it was journaling. I thought I was a kid by like doing a diary, or I shame myself, no one else. I shame myself for it, and I would not fully embrace it. And now, no, I do embrace it. And I think, like, for instance, I had a chaotic week last week, a lot of moving parts. And the only thing that brought me back to peace was going back to journaling, meditating, and working out. Working out is a big thing for me too. And it's really like calming.
Same. Yeah. It's like, I think I saw you have a similar daily routine as I do. You get up in the morning and you work out. I always do like a really intense workout in the morning just to get it all out, start with a good baseline, and then throughout the day, some meditation. What does your meditation practice look like, if you don't mind me asking?
I usually journal first, and then I try, and I do it freestyle. I try to lay for, I have a toddler and an infant, so journaling for sure. And my meditation would be 5 minutes. 10 minutes max. Yeah. I just try, or after, it's either like after journaling or after working out. Just, you're stretching, but at the same time, you have time to calm yourself and just be still.
Yeah. It must be a challenge, but I actually like these micro meditations. I feel like in the Western world, it's really hard to sit down and meditate for an hour. Some of these people who meditate for a whole day, I can't even imagine that. I just get little bursts, like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So it sounds like we're doing something similar, but it's just nice to be able to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with the stillness that we all kind of need as creators to get those ideas to come into our body, And I see a lot of gratitude in your practice as well. Is that something that's important to you?
Very important. And it comes from different things. I think I've met people, and I don't want to judge anyone, but I've met people, not people in my own family, like,
you can judge people. Go ahead.
I guess
the safe space.
You're right. But I because of where I'm from, and my family has been displaced, and one approach is to be poor me, like, oh my God, poor, like our country, and terrible things are happening. And I'm understanding that, but at the same time, I want to be grateful for being the lucky one. I'm the lucky one whose parents made the right decision of leaving a country that was potentially at risk, and it is, like, now it's chaotic.
Yeah.
So because of that aspect of my life, I'm very grateful for anything that I'm able to do freely today, mostly as a woman, as an Afghan woman.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've gonna judge myself for being like, oh, you're too happy. You're not talking about like what's going on in Afghanistan enough, or you're not, you're not like really on my social media. Like some people are expecting me to be standing up for Afghanistan, talking about it all every day and doing things there. But my social media is only for my art. And I think by showing up every day as an Afghan woman who's doing what she's supposed to be doing and fighting for her own like life dreams, I think that's one stance. And also, that's not my platform to be speaking about politics. If I do it, it's my own, like another platform that I would have, but not mixed with my art directly.
Yes, I agree. And you are just the act of you doing what you're doing and being successful. You're a symbol of that.
Yeah, I rather lead by example I connect with young Afghan women in San Diego who have just gotten here. I mean, literally fresh off the planes. So being a mentor for these little girls,
wow.
I love doing that. I used to do it for a very long time on a weekly basis. COVID, 2 babies. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go back, but that's another one of the thing I aspire to go back and then mentor young women, young Afghan women.
That's so cool. That's really cool. I look forward to seeing more of that. So how old are your kids?
Oh, Xander, the oldest, going to be 3 at the end of the month. And I have Caius, the youngest, who's 8 months old.
Oh, wow. 8 months.
Yes.
And you
tiny.
And I see you're so active on Instagram and with your art. How do you juggle all that?
Oh my God. First of all, I'm crazy with my calendar and I plan everything. My days are planned every Sunday night. I sit down, plan everything I have to do for the week, dissect it. And my kids are very good sleepers. So
that's good.
Yeah, they're amazing. When they're up, they're active, but they're good nappers. And I also have some help. So thankfully I have help.
Okay, good.
But yeah, it helps me to have a schedule. And for Instagram, I've learned how to be there when I need to be there and also step back and not always being like in this Instagram hole when you're always checking stuff. Because it's easy to sit down there for an hour and just watch fun videos of other artists. There's amazing content.
It can suck you in. It can be all consuming if you let it be. So it's really cool to hear that you have a schedule. You get in, you do what you need to do, you get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you also support your community on Instagram a little bit as well. People who you like and follow, but you're right. It's so easy. It's so easy to just get in there and then you start watching videos and you're like, oh, this is cool. And then after a while I find, and maybe this is just me, but I want to hear what you have to say. After a while, it can be one of these things where you start looking at other people's work so much. Even it doesn't matter how confident you are in your own work. After a while, you just start to feel like, oh man, I'm not doing enough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we're going to talk about that. I know you got an ebook. So we're going to get into that in a minute, if you're willing to talk about it. So how long have you been doing? Well, first of all, I wanted to say, I agree with you with having your politics be separate from your Instagram. I completely agree. And, if you want to do that too, people can create a separate Instagram profile and do that. But I think there's so many people out there who are already screaming into the abyss. It's so nice to just see somebody concentrating on their art. And the cool thing is all that stuff is wrapped up. All your things that you're going through, what you're talking about, what you're dealing with are all being poured into your art. You are being political without hitting people over the head with being political. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
No, I'm glad to hear that because I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's good. And that's what I try to do as well. And I try to avoid it on the podcast. Sometimes it's hard because we are such a news focused, society now. So every once in a while, something will come out, but I try to keep it away from that as well. How long have you been doing art? I know you've been doing it professionally for maybe 3 years-ish?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, 4 years this year.
4 years.
Like
okay,
full-time, cool. Full-time professionally 4 years, yes.
Oh, very cool. That's nice. Congratulations. And it is not easy. So how long have you been doing art? How long have you been interested in art? And maybe you could talk to us a little bit of the transition from, just doing art into being a professional artist.
Yeah, I think art has always been part of who I am. It's always been around. I've mostly growing up in France, we had art classes weekly. And we would go to museums, exhibition.
Wait, matter they have art in France? I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I thought so.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, it was part of no matter what was your interest as a kid, as a teenager, art was just right there. And I've always loved it. I was a drama in France in high school. We have majors. So I
Mm-hmm.
was the literature major and a drama minor. And drama was
Cool.
it was really cool because it was the art of theater. So it was not about acting per se. It was more about going to plays and really looking at the decors and the acting. So it was really, that was my first, I think, full education in art in general.
Yeah.
When it was like a very intense 3 years of doing that. And I loved it. But then the classic story, then I went to college. I came to America. And I don't think myself or even my parents would have supported, like, they didn't want to support like my art. And I didn't even know exactly what I wanted to do. Um,
That's a pretty standard story.
yeah, just like, and so I did a classic path of getting a degree and got my master's. And I worked in tech in San Francisco. It was really cool. I liked it. It was very creative. I was in product and marketing.
Oh, cool.
And then when I got married, we moved from San Francisco to San Diego. And because I'm a planner, I knew that I wanted kids, and I didn't want to do an 8 to 5 when I go back and forth with my kids and
Mm-hmm.
having this job. So I was like, you know what, let me just stop everything and focus on what I really want to do, which I knew was art. I wanted to paint. I wanted to throw paint. I wanted to learn more about it. So I did that. The day I quit my job, I think I started doing art every day until now.
Mm-hmm.
I I paint pretty much every day. If I'm home, like, I'm always doing something. If I'm in the studio, I'm always doing something. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the transition, and it was a scary transition because, yeah, I had a full-time job. I knew what I was doing, sort of. I had a salary that I was getting every month. But I think my husband was great he was amazing at supporting my dreams. Like, listen, like, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid every month if you don't love it. If you take a year off, like, it's scary. Take a few months off and see what you can do with this,
Yeah.
then run with. And I was very lucky because he's my partner. So it was more about, like, you know what, like, now I can support you for a while until, like, you reach your dreams. Yeah, that kind of worked out. And I was really, I don't know, I loved it all. Like, I loved meeting other artists. I loved, like, this is great.
Yeah.
I love taking classes. I taught a class. I'm teaching classes here and there sometimes, but I love taking classes from other artists because it's not the formal way of taking a class. Like, you're meeting an artist and it's a workshop, and it's opening your mind on so many new perspective, and as an artist, but also as a person.
Yes.
But yeah, and I think what I love about it also is that it's not like you're reaching a position of saying, like, oh, let's say you want to be, I don't know, a lawyer or a doctor, those are great paths. But then once you reach, like, okay, I became a doctor, great. Like, then, like, I don't know, like, this is what they
Now
do.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, I love the fact that it's always moving and it's always, like, something new, and you can change your art anytime when, like, it's just evolving with you.
Definitely. I love that too. You're always moving the goalpost. There's always something to be, as long as you are a person of interest, you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
interested in things in the art world in general. There's just so many things that are fascinating that you can delve into. I'm sure you found this too in your own work. There are pieces of your own work, of your own paintings, where you can go, oh, I liked what I did here. And then you can do a whole series based off of that one little idea. It's just amazing. It's
So
endless.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'd love to hear that. And how long did it take you to kind of feel like you got the hang of it and you're like, okay, I can see this actually moving forward and, making a little bit of money here and there and, selling your work and just creating and seeing it as a viable option for you to keep going? How long did that take, you think?
I mean, honestly, it took me to be confident to say, like, hey, I'm selling this.
Yeah.
It took me a good 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And before that, I'd probably sold a couple pieces because I was part of a gallery here, but I was not confident enough to speak about my art and also market my art and talk about money, because that comes, if you want to be a professional artist, that comes with it.
You have to get comfortable. Yep, exactly.
So that took me a while to get there, and I'm still working on it, but I think I'm definitely better at it. I'm more confident. I don't know if I'm better, but I'm more confident now.
Yeah.
At doing the marketing side and speaking about selling my art without feeling like, I don't know, there's an art, it's always this thing like, oh, I'm just an artist, I don't care about selling. But it's my profession. So you're a professional artist, so you should be able to sell your art and speak about your art.
Yes. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, think that that's BS, because I came from that. I did art for 12 years and I would sell a piece here and there. And I was working a job that I hated. And if you would have asked me back then, if I was brutally honest with you, I would have said, oh, I'm just an artist, I don't care. But it was more of a rationalization for me at the time. Of course, I wanted to be selling my work. Of course, I wanted it to be in people's homes and having people look at it and be inspired by it. And part of that is making some money so you can continue on with your craft, and also so it can get out there into the world and get into people's homes. So I call BS on that a little bit with most artists. I do think there are some people who just love to do art as a hobby, and that's great. But if you're trying to do it as a professional artist, I mean, that's kind of part of the deal, right?
100%. Yeah. You have to wear multiple hats and embrace it all.
Yes. That's a good segue, because speaking of different hats, well, and I wanted to talk to you about your background. You said you were doing marketing. You said you studied theater. I also was a theater major in college, theater and art.
Cool.
Yeah. So I loved all. I did acting too and all that. But all of those things teach you like a different technique or a different skill. Thank you. So what did you learn from marketing and theater and all this stuff that you could put into your practice?
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I feel like I learned so much from, so my job in tech, for like the last job I had was, I was in the computer, and then I was with very creative people in that world. Like, so that really taught me that not to be afraid of using something else on the canvas. Like if you're on a computer and if you're building something, if you want to make your own website, or if you want to have your Instagram and all that for product based, I'm always afraid of starting, but once I get in there, I'm like, no, you'll be able to solve things. Take your time. You can resolve anything. Yeah. So that, and also being in marketing. So in the marketing part, I think that part, as an artist, I think things changed a lot during the pandemic.
Definitely.
So I learned most of my marketing skills as an artist during the pandemic, learning from other artists on different platforms, artists that had classes online for just marketing your art and being comfortable doing so. My learnings they're very recent, and I'm trying to adapt to what's going on now, because everything has changed so much during the pandemic for artists, I feel.
So much. And what was the impetus for this? Partially just because you couldn't go into your gallery anymore. You didn't have the ability to have the brick and mortar gallery and sell work through there or go to classes and stuff like that. Was that pretty much why you made the shift? Or were you kind of going in that direction anyway?
I think I would have gone that direction, but it would have taken me longer, because I was so comfortable, and I was part of a gallery here with multiple artists, and we had a great group going, but it was it was in San Diego. It was in our small town, in a neighborhood where we didn't reach as many people as the internet, obviously.
Right.
But it was very comfortable. So it would have taken me, I was already interacting with people, selling some of my art through this gallery. So I don't think I would have pushed myself to do what I'm doing now if the pandemic would have not happened, which is for me is a silver lining of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now I'm really happy that it happened for us as artists, because we do have more control over our work. We have direct connection with collectors, and collectors understand this world where it's okay. You can buy art through a website or through Instagram and speak to the artist.
Yeah.
And I love that I've connected with so many people. I speak to 3 or 4 of my collectors like friends. Like we text here and there, and they live in different parts of the world, but it's all thanks to the pandemic and Instagram or whatever other social platform that you're using.
It's so true. And I think that's what collectors want too. And I think that's one of the best things about living in this era as artists. I started making that transition to selling online about 7 years ago. Okay. And I'd been, struggling and pounding the pavement. And I was in a lot of shows. I did a lot of gallery shows. I'd been represented before, and it was fine, but I wasn't getting ahead. I wasn't really connecting with the collectors that I wanted to. And so when I finally took it into my own hands and started learning the marketing, learning how to do this, cutting out the middleman a little bit, and then getting into some of these online art marketplaces, it just opened up a whole new world for me. And then it was interesting because when the pandemic happened, it felt like a lot of the people who weren't doing that, it was like a mad rush, like, oh no, we got to get online.
Yeah.
So now there's a lot of competition. I mean, there was competition before too, but there's even more competition now. But it's also, as you know, being a person who's positive and abundant, there's more than enough out there for all of us.
Definitely. And it also builds credibility because there are many of us doing that, and we connect through this platform. So
yeah,
I feel like it gives us as artists much more credibility if there are many of us on there promoting, showing, and selling.
Yeah, I agree. It's a rising tides situation.
Yes.
Lifts all boats. Well, so I want to talk about, if you want, talk about the ebook. I was really excited to hear that you're writing an ebook. It's called The Art of Social Media, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And well, first of all, you can get this on your website, right? Do you want to give it a little plug first where you can find it? If you're interested? Okay.
It's on my website my website is manaz.com, and then it's on the playbook tab. And I just launched it a month ago, and I can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to hear about it.
So the reason why I started this ebook playbook is because a lot of my artist friends were asking me about how to show up on Instagram and how to be successful on Instagram without feeling overwhelmed by this crazy algorithm. I don't know, like
the algorithm.
So I know, like I always talk about it. I don't talk about it because it doesn't matter.
yeah, exactly. And it's different for each person anyway. It's not like there's one algorithm path for everybody.
I know, it's such a negative, scary word now. It's just a word. I don't know what they're doing. I don't care. We'll never figure it out anyway. So
that's great. That's a great outlook because you have a positive outlook on all these things. And I think that's so key. There can be so many things going on in the world, whether that's political or you're part of a group that feels held back or whatever. You're an artist who feels held back. You have a chip on your shoulder about that. It's all about your mindset. There is enough out there for everybody. And you're right. Don't let somebody scare you off of social media because of the all-powerful algorithm. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to interject that real quick.
No, I love that. I agree. But yeah, so my artist friend asked me about potentially teaching a class, and then so I also opened a gallery/studio about a year ago with some of my artist friends. So we're called The Five, and we have this great gallery in Liberty Station in San Diego. And we decided, we were asked a lot to teach classes. And I wasn't ready to teach a painting class. I don't want to, right now, it's not something that I'm not ready. I didn't want to do it. So, but I really wanted to share what I learned on Instagram because I felt like it was such a big struggle for some of the artists I'm around. So we did a series of 5 classes, and mine was The Art of Instagram, or The Art of Social Media.
Cool.
And I did so much research, and I put a playbook for my class, and I wanted to be a very small class. It was 5 people. And I was like, okay, I have this playbook that I've spent 2-3 months just researching just for this, just putting it in words. So I may as well share it with everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it on my website, and you have access to it. And it's pretty much everything from creating your social media presence, like having your identity as an artist, what you want to show, who you want to be to the world as an artist.
Like a brand, kind of.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Like it's branding, and also targeting your ideal customer. So this is the core key of marketing, but adapted for artists and putting into more
and for this era too, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And also I think some artists are scared of spending too much time there and not understanding if it's successful or not. So I dissected everything also by how much time you should spend on there, when and what should you post, how much should you post without feeling overwhelmed by Instagram.
Yes.
And I like it because I enjoy being on social media. I have my schedule and I get a lot out of it for my business. I also connect with amazing people. So I was trying to translate that into a little ebook for artists.
That's so cool. Well, first of all, that's extremely helpful, but also it debunks that whole myth of social media being this, this horrible thing. I resisted getting on social media for so many years, and then I finally did it. And then it was kind of like, it was a little bit of a struggle for a while. And then I realized this is what you put into it. Like I can have fun with this too. So it sounds like you have fun. When I look at your Instagram profile and what you're doing and your reels, you look like you're having fun with it. And it was like a little, it was like a switch when I was like that too. When I made that transition from just doing it as like, oh yeah, I got to post the thing today. Instead of doing that, like, how can I do this with my own brand or my own sense of humor or whatever? And
Yeah,
just
I
throw
love
that into
it.
reels. Yeah, it's great. So thank you for doing that. The art of social media. And can you spell how you find it online, your URL?
It's Mosta, Manaz, Manaz.com.
Okay.
Mostamanaz.com.
Manaz.com. And there's some great stuff on there.
Yes, my art.
Oh yeah, everything. Your story. You can see more of her story, but also I like how your website has different sections. Like you have the petite shop, and then you have
Yes.
Les Bizarre Boutique. I'm not going to try to do a French accent, just so you know. But I like how you kind of separate those, because I also find, and I've talked to people about this, it's nice to have different sizes and prices out there for people, just to kind of get them. Maybe somebody's not a collector and they go, oh, this is a small piece that I could just, dip my toes in, and then they start collecting it. And then they go, oh, I love this. And then they come back for a big piece. So I love that. Yeah. I love that you're doing that. I love the different categories. And I was combing through your resume too. You've really made a big splash on the gallery scene in the last 3 years. What was one of your favorite shows you did? And you don't have to say Shockbox.
No, I do have a special connection with Shockbox though, because I know Mike is great, and I applied to a few shows, Shockbox, and I didn't get in. And he pinged me. It's like, hey, listen, you were not matching like the call, but then let me know next time. And it was great that he was so involved and very nice about it. Like he was not like, oh, I'm the gallery owner, and no, this doesn't work. He was like it was really nice of him.
Yes.
So I do feel like I have a special connection with you guys.
For sure.
Favorite show?
Or favorite gallery, whatever. I know you were with the Ashton Gallery for a while. Was this?
Yes.
You were represented by them, correct?
Yes, I was a mentored artist there. So by default, they will also show our art monthly. So I always had pieces there. But right now, I'm not there anymore. They're still around, and they're a great gallery. Right now, I think I love being in Laguna also. And I'm more selective now. I'm in very few galleries. I'm in a small galleries in San Diego. I'm in a great gallery in Laguna that I love. And then I am in New York right now in the Hamptons, which I haven't seen. Yeah, it's cool. It's called the White Gallery in Hamptons, I think. I haven't been there.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, I think they have an Instagram presence too. They represent cool artists. That's how I found them. But yeah, I like being like coastal, like on both coasts. So it gives me like a presence, and I'm more selective now because we can. Because
you can, exactly. Yeah, no, I want to talk about that. Yeah. I think it's one of those things too, where when you start doing well, and also the transition we're talking about recently with things going online, I think you have so many more options and so much more power as an artist. I found, because like if you look back over my resume over the last 20 years, I mean, I've done hundreds of shows.
Wow.
And so many of those were just like, okay, this will be good for my resume or whatever. I'm going to have one piece in this show, or I'm going to have 4 pieces in the show, but like lugging your work downtown and here and doing these pop-up shows and doing like real legitimate galleries and doing events and stuff. And that's all great. And you should be doing that. But it gets to a point where I was like, diminishing returns, like, is this really worth my effort that I'm putting into this, and like trying to get people to come out to the show to see one piece that I'm doing. So I just started to transition more into doing like very selective work as well, very selective shows, and also focusing more online. It's funny because now when I look into it, I'm like, now I have to force myself to do a couple of shows a year. I'm like, all right, I should probably do a show, so it's cool to hear you say that you have a little bit of a similar sensibility. Is that because of how well you're doing online?
I think it's a little bit of both. I also, you have to think about, as you said, like you have to either transport your art or ship your art. And I had some experiences when your art comes back broken. So that's why I'm more selective. And there are online galleries there's also online shows nowadays that are more common, and people watch online. They look at online, like any online shows. Like if they're interested, they can go and look at your art too. So yeah, a little of everything. I think I believe in the online art presence, and also I have to have my time management on where I want to put my energy to either pack my art to ship or drive my art. Yeah. So I think about it. Before I think I was really, and that's that's also part of the experience as a new artist. Like, I think I'm still growing, but initially I just wanted to be in shows. So I was applying everywhere. It didn't matter. I had a budget for which shows I wanted to apply to. So I was doing it all the time. And it's exciting when you get in.
Definitely.
But I'm less focused on that now.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I think that's just, a byproduct of starting to do better too.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and even if you're an artist who's still doing the brick and mortar gallery route, you're going to stop doing like the little pop-up shows, and you're going to stop doing these big group shows that maybe aren't really worth, like if you're going to send a piece that's going to cost you $400 to ship it, and then, you're in this huge group show where your piece is lost and you're not going to be selling anything. It might not be worth it. Right. But that's a great problem to have. That's a good place to be in your career where you can start making those decisions. So tell me a little bit more about this collective. What's the group of 5? Is it 5 female artists?
5 art. Yes. 5 women.
Yes. And I think I know a few of them. Do you mind telling us the names of the artists?
So there's Anne Golombek, Susie Zoll, Yael Yan, and then Denise Serro.
Yes. Okay,
so you probably know them through, I think it's funny because the Shockbox artists and us, we all know each other. These two, like the San Diego and then Hermosa Beach group.
I've seen many of them on the Zoom openings and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're great. It's amazing I'm very grateful for this group of artists because as an artist, it can get very lonely and you get into your head or you don't have a direct answer to your questions. So having a network that you can rely on, it's amazing. From small things, from products that we're using to having a critique for our piece or computer things and social media, we always there for each other. And the way it started, so again, during the pandemic, when everything shut down, our gallery where we were mentored at Ashton Gallery, it shut down too, like everything else. So instead of sitting at home by ourselves, we started meeting on Zoom weekly. Just it just happened that the 5 of us, there was 15 of us, but then the 5 of us really wanted to do more during the pandemic. And it kept going and going. And we had this emoji of a red phone. When we had a emergency art question, we'll send this emoji on a text and we'll end. So, and now we have a real old-fashioned red phone on our boardroom in our gallery. Just like
that's awesome.
We sit there. So till now, like starting in the pandemic, we always met on Tuesday mornings online. And now we meet at our gallery every Tuesday and we have an agenda. We did a big opening. It was a big show with all of our art. We're doing critique nights. We're inviting other artists to come. We're doing classes.
Nice.
And also it's a great place to meet your collectors. And we also paint from there. I don't paint as much there because I paint big and I have kids. So the time of me driving there, it's not far, but it's like I have to think about every 15 minutes of my life. They all count. So, but I'm there. Yeah, I'm there with the girls, and it's truly amazing.
That's so cool. And 5 sounds, it has a better ring to it than 15 for some reason. In the name, like it sounds better. So did you find during the pandemic? Because you're right about the isolation of being an artist. I think a lot of people feel like they're just out there by themselves, and I used to thrive on that so much. I still do to an extent. But that was part of the reason why I started the podcast, was because I wanted to connect with more artists and have a little bit more of a community. But
nice.
So it's cool that you're doing that in person, IRL for the younger kids out there. And did you find that the isolation was exacerbated and got more difficult for you during the pandemic? I'm sure you had your kids too, so maybe not. But but I know for me, like the person who was just like, isolation, you can lock me in a room for a year. I found even that it started to get to me a little bit. Did that affect you at all?
It's funny because I'm not an introvert, but I need my space, and I could get lost in my studio for hours. I mean, you're an artist, like we can just be there forever and ever.
Yeah.
So no, not really. What really got to me was not being able to go back to France.
Oh, so definitely.
Yeah, that was really hard. And having at the time my firstborn, he was a firstborn, he was a baby, and then I got pregnant. I wanted to be pregnant again, so thankfully it happened. But all that, like being pregnant and having already a baby also, and being at home and not being able to go to France, that was really hard. And I felt really disconnected from I was wondering, I was like, what am I doing here? I'm so far away from my country and from my family. My whole family
Yeah.
is back home. So that was really hard. And I still haven't gone back. I'm going back in 2 weeks, finally, after
Oh, nice.
almost 4 years.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah. My wife, it's the same thing. We were scheduled to go for her birthday I think we were leaving on March 27th or something.
hey, my birthday's on
And
28th.
oh, well, sure. Her birthday is actually the 29th, but we were going to go on the 27th,
Oh,
but
cool.
it's still one day. That's great.
Mhm.
Happy birthday. So we
Thank you.
were all scheduled to go to see them. It was the first time in I think 2.5-3 years that we're going to see them. And we got shut down the week before. And now we still haven't seen them. So she's in the same boat as you, and her family's finally going to come up and see us in November. So
Nice,
it'll be like
nice.
over 5 years. Yeah. Isn't that
It's
crazy?
crazy. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, it's a
Like,
little better now that we have Zoom and stuff. It's not like, back in the old days, if you didn't see your family
yeah.
for 5 years, but you were talking on the phone, you'd see them in person, be like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
But now we still get a chance to see their faces and, have that kind of facial recognition, which is great, but it's still not the same as seeing them in person. So I'm glad you're going to get a chance to do that. What about I wanted to hear a little bit of some goals you have for your art. Like, where do you see your art in 5 years, or just, immediate goals that you have?
Yeah, I think I have some different goals. So I definitely want to keep painting and learning more about myself through my art and connecting with people. So that's something I want to continue doing. Painting larger scale. So I've been going bigger and bigger, and I aspire to do
Yes.
more. I love that. I feel my best self as an artist when I'm painting big. But also, I go back to small to recenter, which is weird. Like I bounce back. But then
Mm-hmm.
larger and larger is something that I'm really looking for. I had the goal this year to do a really large piece for my house, and I finished that.
See, I don't know if you can see this one behind me.
Oh, I love it.
That's huge. This is
Oh,
actually, it's deceiving.
it's a
It's like,
statement.
it's 60 by 72. So it's pretty large
Wow.
piece, but I'm in the same way. I love it. I just wish I had more space. I've got about 10 of them sitting on my studio, and they're like taking up all
Oh,
my
wow.
space. Yeah. But so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that. And then I think another goal that I have, it's actually I've been looking and learning about NFTs in this new world,
Yes.
which
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very curious. I'm very interested, and I'm having conversation with people who are more savvy into that world. So that's something that I'm working on slowly. I
Are you
want to
doing that
do.
yourself, or are you going to be going through some sort of company or collective? Like I have some NFTs up there with a company that promotes them. Are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to do that?
No, I'm probably gonna do like you
Yeah.
and like work with someone, and I'll probably ping you to ask you more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something that I want to make the right decision and not a rash decision, because I'm still learning about this world.
Yes.
And I would love to do collaboration with big brands. Like I've always been a big fan of like big luxury houses. I admire like their craft and how their crafts have been around for centuries. And being from France also, it's something that I really appreciate. And I would love to marry my art to, I don't know, big luxury names like out there, just for the love of the craft.
Oh, I love that. That's a great goal. How fast are you trying to achieve this, or does it not matter?
Well, no,
Let's put it
I
out there.
mean,
Let's really manifest this. Like I want a date.
yeah. I mean, NFT by the end of the year. I want to
Okay.
do a launch with a group. So
Uh-huh.
hopefully that comes around, and it will. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, definitely.
And then for a collaboration with big brands or luxury brands, probably next year. I see it. Things are moving slowly, but then they're going that direction. And as you said, like you're also a positive person, so.
Yes.
And I like this whole manifestation like world too. So
Yeah, I love it.
the way it's going, it's happening. Hopefully in the next year or so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just
Hopefully.
putting that out there, putting that, not even a date necessarily, but just being able to see it like it's, oh yeah, this is happening. I do that so often, and just, putting, I don't know, are you a list person? Do you make lists?
Yeah. Yes. I'm a list for everything.
You're like, yes, I made a list before I got on here. What kind of, is this like a daily list, or is this like goals? What kind of list are we talking about here? Affirmations.
I have multiple lists. I have all of them, I think. I mean, yeah, as you said, from groceries to affirmation to, so I'm organized by my lists too. So every Sunday night when I plan my week, I think I'm crazy. But that's why I love my art, because I'm so structured. I'm never late. I'm always like, yesterday, my dentist appointment, I missed our podcast.
Yeah.
That's very unusual for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
unusual.
Well, you had a good excuse.
Yes.
A valid excuse.
So yeah, because I'm so organized, my art and my studio is my space to just let it go.
Yes.
But no, my lists I love my lists. That's something else I was ashamed of as a kid, because I would prep everything and I had lists on my backpack about, I don't know, the things I had to bring to school or lunch, or everything was ready and listed. But it helps me to function so well to write it down and to cross it off. And I have an agenda. I'm part also of the CEO Club for Women.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yes, it's a group of women who are helping each other strive in whatever industry they are in. And they have multiple different courses monthly. And they send you an agenda every quarter. And everything is dissected from, you have your personal goals that you write, then you have to make a list out of it of what you want to accomplish in a month, in a week. So everything is dissected. So I do this every quarter, every week. I sit down and do it. And the crazy part is, like, I have it written down on my agenda, and sometimes I will go on my phone and also put it on my notes. So it's everywhere.
The more places you can see it, the better,
Yeah, and I have vision boards also. That's different in lists, but I also think
visualization. I see it right there. Yeah, it's awesome. No, I mean, it's so important to visualize. And there's done so many studies. I'm sure you know the numbers about people achieving, at a higher percentage than those who don't visualize. Like athletes do it. Everybody does.
Yes.
It's so important to visualize. And I've talked about that on the podcast too. I actually will sometimes pair a little bit of a visualization with a meditation when I'm getting into the mindset. Yeah. And that's really effective. I was not a list person. And then my wife is a big list person. She's like, start writing down. And because for me, I'd like to remember everything, but I found I started to have anxiety because I was like holding too many things in my brain.
Yes.
And so getting it down, getting it on paper was great. But also, you're right, being able to cross it off. And there's something about just putting it on paper and looking at it. It feels like now that I started doing that, I'm like, I cross off about 80% of my goals that I write down, which is just amazing. So start, working up to 10xing those, and, maybe you can achieve 80% of those as well. It's really cool. Well, I'll open it up to you. Is there something else you want to talk about? I do a little rapid fire where I ask some questions that I ask everybody, some personal questions, and then we can get out of here. I don't want to take up your whole day, but is there something else you want to talk about or you want to plug before we do that?
No, I just want to encourage any artist to, because some people look up to us, like you and I, artists have like a presence online, and they think that, I could never be that person, and they're like way above who I am. I started my Instagram 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah. So, and it's not only about Instagram. It's like, just follow your instincts, your guts. They know better. If you want to paint, just paint. If you want any craft, if you want to do it, just go for it. Do it daily. Even if it's 15 minutes. We all have 15 minutes here and there. Just go for it. Don't look at other people and compare yourself with anybody, because you can be your dream self. So that's the only thing I want to tell people. I
love that. Yeah. And put yourself into a place of being present when you're doing it, and just the joy of doing it. Don't make it feel like it's something like it's a task that you have to achieve, but something that you actually enjoy doing too. I think that's really important. So we're going to move on. I always ask everybody what their superpower is, because I think of artists a little bit like superheroes. What is something that you go to? Like, let's say you're having a day, maybe you don't ever have a day like this, but maybe you're having a day when you're not feeling creative, or let's say you're just overwhelmed and you're like, I don't want to get in the studio today, but you have to. What's something that's a go-to that gets you into that mindset?
I think is it a superpower?
Yes.
Yes. I think I'm really good at, if I know I'm in the funk, I'm great at like stepping out. Like I put myself on timeout, but a positive timeout.
I love it.
So I go for a walk, or I go play with my kids, or I do something completely different to change the energy.
Yes. Almost like a pattern interrupt.
Yes, and I'm really...
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
No,
this is about you, so I'm not going to...
And you said a superpower, so that's why I think I'm really good at letting it out and recognize it. So I know what's going on. I know I'm in the funk, and I just leave. It's like, there's no point of me ruining this piece of art that I have over here. Yeah. May as well just leave it alone and then make myself better.
That's a huge superpower. It might not sound like much to somebody, but like if you're doing this every day and you can get yourself out of these funks by doing a little reset like that and then get back into it, that's amazing. That's really cool. So any tips to people? Like what's something that's a go-to, like a walk or meditation?
Yeah, walk is a good one. Meditating. I mean, meditating maybe can be, for me, it's harder because I'm on the funk already. So I think working out is great. I have kids. If you have pets, kids, play with them. They're the best.
Yes. Get back in touch with your fun side. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And now this is another one that I ask, and don't take it the wrong way. I always ask biggest failures. I just mean something that you were trying to achieve, maybe didn't come out the way you wanted it to. And what did you learn from it? Anything like that you can think of in your life?
Well, first of all, I think failures are great. You need it's not all like, oh, I want to try and it's going to be successful. No, it's you learn from, and if you haven't failed, like you won't
succeed.
Grow. Yeah, you won't succeed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you need to know both aspects also to really enjoy your success. So
yes.
For me, a big failure, I don't know. Because I think this way, now I see my failures as successes. So I don't have one specific one, but I would say what I did for schooling, for instance, I went to school blindly thinking I wanted to be a French teacher. And that's not what I wanted to do. And I put in 4 years of my life to that. And I was about to become a teacher. Something happened, like the economy in 2008, and they didn't have budget for teachers anymore. So it just, they closed my program. So I was devastated. It was a huge failure on my perspective. But no, that's the best thing that has ever happened to me. I would have been stuck in a pattern that I didn't want to. So in a life that I didn't want to. So that's why and I have many of those.
And aren't those great? I tell my wife all the time, I look back on stuff, and I went through some torturous times in my life, just horrible times. And I look back on them now and I'm like, I wouldn't have traded any of them for the world. Like I wouldn't have traded any of them, even the worst times. So that's something that's really important to remind yourself as an artist. If you're like starting out, or maybe not even starting out, and you're going through a tough time, you're going to look back on this and you're going to say, this happened for the exact right reason. So it just takes a little bit of the edge off of it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
So that's cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. And then we'll do one or two more. Advice to young Manaz. Now, like you can pick any age, like, your 10-year-old self, your 20-year-old self, whatever. Something you've learned now and you'd like to impart on your younger self.
I think, listen more to your guts. Be more confident. Like just go for it. Don't think about the world around you, really. Just follow your dream. I mean, don't be selfish, but just go for it. Like you know best. We all know best. And there's a study around like our gut's reaction is really truly right. Like this instinct that we have is not just a woo-woo thing. Like it's real. So listen to it.
I love it. I feel like you and I are listening to and reading some similar stuff. I just did a podcast about living with integrity. I'm reading this book about, I can't remember. I keep thinking of the integrity cleanse, but the author did an integrity cleanse where they were getting back in touch with just, learning to listen to your instincts, like you're saying, and that core part of yourself, and having all your decisions come from there. And she actually got really sick. Like she was chronically sick for many years. I think it was even a couple decades. And when she did this integrity cleanse, she ended up losing a lot of her friends and her family and stuff, but she kind of rebuilt up, and her sickness went away. And now she's just living this dream life. So it just illustrates how bogged down you can get if you're not listening to your true self.
And you're the most important. Like if you're not healthy, if you're not happy first, then you cannot make the world around you healthy and happy. So it's not selfish. Yeah.
So true. Well, I was going to say earlier when you said selfish, even being successful, like if you're successful as an artist, I think a lot of artists think of that as a negative or dirty word, like, oh, successful. No, I'm a true artist. Well, the more successful you are, the more you can give back, the more you can inspire people. Yes. So that's the way I look at it. So I'm really happy for your success. I'm excited to see more from you, and hopefully meet in person one of these days.
Yes.
I know you're a busy person. We both probably have a lot of Instagramming and painting to do. So we can stop there unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, except thank you. No, I love that we connected, and we have, I love that we have a similar point of view on things in life. So, yes. And that kind of makes sense. Your wife has almost the same birthday as me. So
yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah. It makes sense. It definitely does. Well, let's keep in contact. And thank you so much for coming on, Manaz. Stick around for 1 minute. I'm going to ask you something off mic, but thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.